Who is that? Walker. What is Walker? A Texas Ranger, right? All right, Walker, Texas Ranger. He's a pretty cool guy, right? I mean, he's not just a cop. He's not just a highway patrolman. He is a Texas Ranger, right? And what does he do? He goes around and he saves people's lives, and he gets the bad guy every time, you know, and he's constantly saving lives. Well, Ron and I started watching some of the series. We watched them years ago, and we've started watching them again. We've been watching season 4. And it's kind of fun to go back and watch that. We used to watch them with our kids and stuff. So we're in season 4 right now. The other day, and I don't remember the exact circumstances, but I remember that Walker figured out where the bad guys were. And I mean, there must have been 20 or so of them. And they all were heavily armed. They had machine guns, you know, automatic weapons. And I don't remember why, but I do remember that for some reason, Walker, when he figured all this out and he was about to go in, he didn't have his gun with him. I think maybe he had given it to someone. If I remember, he had given it to someone because he wanted them to be protected. And so here he is. He's going in. Wait, he doesn't call for backup because he is Walker, Texas Ranger. Okay? And he doesn't call for backup. So he's going in with no weapon. He goes in, him and his partner, they go in, and there's these guys with automatic weapons everywhere, and that's a dangerous situation. And so they go in, and we're watching this, and the scene is really tense. It's really tense, right? And so he goes in, and he comes to the first sentry, the first guard, and he comes behind him, and he takes him out. And the guy's laying there, his machine gun's laying there, and Walker walks off to the next guy. And I said, pick up the machine gun, man. What are you doing? You're going to need that. Not him, dude. So he goes to the next guy and knocks him out. The guy falls out, drops his gun, and he's passed out or whatever. And I said, there's another chance. Pick up the machine gun. You know, and we're sitting there thinking, he's going to die. He's going to die. Because he's not armed. And I know, because we saw the rest of the scenes inside that he didn't know. There was a lot of people in there with machine guns, automatic weapons. And here he is. He won't even pick up the dude's gun. Pick it up. It was tense. I looked at Ron and I said, he's going to die. But then I realized that everything was going to be okay. Because this was the 4th season. And there were 4 more seasons to go. And so I knew that he was going to be on the next episode and he was going to be in the next season. So I just, okay, it's going to be all right. You know? It's going to be all right. See, it was tense. And I know it's kind of silly to think about this, but that's what the resurrection of Jesus does for us. I mean, I get into life just like every one of you do. And things happen and things get tense in life. And you know, you get into stresses and troubles and things start to really get kind of bad and you wonder how things are going. And you know, and you get really tense, right? And then I have to stop and I have to think, wait a minute. It's all right. Because I know I'm not really going to die. Everything's going to be fine because I know how this story ends. You follow me? You see what I'm saying? Oh, I might die physically. But I know how the story ends. Because I know that there's another episode for me. Another 4 seasons. Another 400 seasons. Another 4 billion seasons that I get to continue on. So when this little stressful time comes up, I can look back and I can say, it's okay. Because I know how this ends. That's what the resurrection of Jesus does for us. And it's the best feeling. I mean, think about it. It's the best feeling to know how it ends, to know how things are going to be forever and ever and ever. Because I know that one day I'll be with Jesus. Any minute now, I'll be with God. Forever. For billions of seasons, not just 4 more. Everything's going to be all right. The resurrection should change how we view life. It should change how we view everything that happens in your life. It's a great way to live. Now that's the Walker Texas Ranger version of how this works. Let me give you Paul's version of how this works, okay? In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, beginning in verse 36, listen to this carefully. Follow along with this. How many of you are gardeners? How many of you ever planted a garden? Okay, a lot of you have. You kind of know how that works, right? You put seeds in the ground, put dirt over them, and they grow, right? Listen to what Paul said. When you put a seed into the ground, it doesn't grow into a plant unless it dies first. Okay? And what you put in the ground is not the plant that will grow, but only a bare seed of wheat or whatever you're planting. Then God gives it a new body that He wants it to have. And a different plant grows from different kinds of seeds. Let me ask you something. Did you know that a seed has to be dead before it can come to life? You ever think about that? You know, if you go buy a pack of seeds, they're dead. They're dried out. They're dead. A seed has to die and be buried before it can produce life. Isn't that interesting? See, what seems to happen in gardening, and I got this straight from a gardener from a book. Listen to what he said. He said a seed is planted, and in order for life to grow from it, it must die. It must be dead. Then life breaks free from the seed and sprouts into something new, leaving behind the shell of what once contained it. So even the gardener saying this seed's got to be dead, you bury it, and then the dead shell opens up and life comes forth. That's the same thing Paul just said, right? And what Paul's doing, he's applying this to us. Now, what do we want to come from the seed? New life, right? When we plant a seed in the ground and we bury it, it's dead. And when we plant that dead seed in the ground and we bury it, we watch. And what we're looking for is new life to come up, right? You want it to die so that something better can come from it. When you and I are planted into the ground, we will rise up as something new. We have that promise because we know that Jesus was planted. He was dead and He was planted and He rose up, right? When we die, this is what Paul is telling us. When we die, we're like a seed. We die, we're planted in the ground, and some other life comes up. Something better, something great. According to the passage, when we come back up, we will have this body that God wants us to have. Our lives and our bodies now that we have right now, they're just seeds. And one day the seeds are going to die. And they're going to be buried. And from that, life will come. Do you believe that? Do you believe in the resurrection? Do you believe in the promise of Jesus that if he can be raised, that we will be raised? Man, the resurrection means so much to us.